All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with a band that, should have been on the show probably more recently, but it's been like a ridiculous amount of time. I think it's been like 5 or 6 years now since we did an episode with a version of Clipwing. So I think that first of all, it's cool to see that you're back doing shows. I mean, I think when I saw you guys pop up on social media and it was like, oh, we have a show coming up. It was like, oh, I didn't even know you were still actively a band. And I think part of that was because of the pandemic and because it was sort of hard to know for that 2 year period, who was still active or whether bands even existed anymore or whatever. So I think the best way to start this off before we get too deep into it is if the four of you want to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, and then listeners can put a name to the voice. So I think, based on how I'm seeing the picture here, starting with Steve will make sense. He's to the left from what I can see. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. I think we've met each other before, but
maybe.
I'm the bass player of Grandma's Navy. I'm the bass player here in Clipwing. I've been kicking around for a while, and I do some vocals, but not all of them. There you go.
I guess the same applies to me. I do some vocals and not all of them. I'm Marty.
Right on.
I'm Dylan. I play drums and do some backup vocals,
but not all of them.
And I play guitar.
Right on. So I think that like maybe the did you play all the guitars? Yeah. But not all. I think the best way to sort of frame this is, I mean, I'm so sick of talking about the pandemic, and I'm sure you guys are too. Everyone's sick of talking about it, but it has affected like the last couple of years of everyone's lives, especially doing something creative that is heavily reliant on live performances. So, what has this whole 2 year period been like for you guys, just in terms of trying to be a band and trying to, even have the ability to get together, work on songs, rehearse, any of that stuff?
Well, I think that like the best part of being a band, like you mentioned, that like people are like, oh, are they still a band? Is that you don't need to do a lot. We just kept doing what we were doing. We've been writing constantly, and like between life changes and band changes, and then the pandemic and whatever, we've had things in the works, but it kind of like we just sort of kept doing what we were doing. So there was a good chunk of time where we couldn't rehearse. And then otherwise we just kind of kept up. So we've been writing like crazy and rehearsing, and that's pretty much it. So we've got a record ready to go. And that's kind of what we've been doing.
Cool. Was there a point where the band was over for a while, or were you just sort of under the radar and working on stuff?
Yeah, mostly just working on stuff. Like we never really went away. I guess at a certain point we sort of stopped booking headlining shows for ourselves locally. Like we've done a certain amount of touring and stuff like that, and when it came to like local shows, we were basically like if there were gigs that people asked us to play, we would usually say yes and did some opening slots and stuff like that, but we just weren't booking our own kind of headlining shows because it didn't really make a lot of sense after a certain amount of time, and so that's kind of why we seemed like we weren't around as much, I guess.
So has this new material you're working on, like you said, you have a new record that's in the works. Is this stuff that's been kind of happening over the past few years? Is it like something you've been working on basically since the last record came out, which was a few years ago now?
Yeah, so the last thing we did was in 2017. We put out a 2-song EP called Dirty Lights and Wet Streets. And then since then we had demoed a bunch of stuff, like enough for maybe an EP. We had like lots of other bits and bobs kicking around, and then since Dylan has joined the band roughly 2 years ago.
Yeah, I joined the band maybe 2 years ago, but I was doing some little fill-in spots with them because they had a few shows. Like for example, I believe it was Tony's from Tony Stockyards. Like it was his last show with the band, and I think because Clipwing played their first show, they brought Clipwing back for their last show, and so I was filling in for a few shows around that time. And then finally I like joined as a permanent member. So like I was around then.
Yeah, so since Dylan's been in the band, we've written stuff with him as well. So okay. And then I mean, just today we were kicking up stuff like some of the new songs are riffs that we wrote 7 or 8 years ago, and some of them are things that we wrote a week ago. So it's a healthy dose of both.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely nice to have the extra energy that Dill brings to it too, and like being a great songwriter as it is, like it's just adding to what we do, and it's nice.
He's significantly younger than the rest of us.
That
He's only 22 years old.
Yeah. It's nice. It definitely like adds more to the tank,
Was he the obvious choice for you guys too? Like, I mean, when you were looking for a new drummer?
Yeah, so he doesn't like to admit it, but I asked Dill to join Clipwing before Clipwing was a thing, and I think he said, "Get fucked, I hate you." And I was like, "Man, I just asked you to join a band, and you said stop fucking talking to me." And so then he played in Danger Cat, he did the Distances thing, and when
He had
that
to
all
warm
fizzled
up.
out, it was they were like very mediocre bands. And so once that petered out, finally he was like, "Hey guys, can I join Clipwing?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. You're gonna have to shape up a little bit." And so 6 months of like drum lessons,
This
and
guy.
then we took him on.
Drum lessons, nice.
Well,
Wow.
I guess
The Axl Rose response if I've
I-
ever heard.
that was a great answer. Yeah, it's, you're shitting on like half the scene.
Yeah, I
I mean,
buckled down and
the-
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna-
The true part, legitimately, is I did ask Dylan to join the band, but he was in Danger Cat
Yeah.
already, and he was in the band.
And Danger Cat rules.
that was very
Well,
funny.
Then I guess Dylan, maybe for a question for you then is like what I assume that you obviously know these guys before joining the band, and I mean there's this kind of tight knit scene of all these bands that you're all in a million bands and you shift members and everything all the time. But what was this band to you? Like what did you like about Clipwing? Why did you feel like you would want to actually play in this band? I mean, I know you know these assholes, but what was the appeal for you? I guess of what do you think you could bring to their sound?
I have the same question. Why would you want to play?
I kind
Well,
of wondering the same.
Clipwing, if I'm being honest, like Clipwing was my favorite like active local band. Like when these guys started to come out and were releasing songs, and they were my favorite band. Like that in the local scene, like I loved their music, and it just had a good vibe to it. So it wasn't. I know. I always found Clipwing to be in that like happy medium of like it's not super fast, but it's also not super slow. It's like this really nice pocket of rhythm and what they have, and it allows them to be very melodic. And Marty has that skill of writing really melodic stuff and melodies and whatnot, right? So hearing them for as many years as I did, I've always been a huge fan. And then join the band, it was really cool. Like I was really happy to join and for them to even consider me. So
Cool. What does the new stuff sound like? I mean, it sounds like Clipwing, obviously, but have things changed over the years? I mean, you said your last release was 2017. Like that's a while ago now. What should people expect, I guess, sonically from this new record that maybe they wouldn't have heard on some of the previous stuff?
That's a good question. I guess it's not really a departure from other stuff, because if we look at our track record, we've really released 3 EPs. So we've got 11 songs out in the world, which is not a lot considering we've been a band for 10 years kind of thing. So the stuff, it's basically we've really like continued to find and hone our sound. I think like I always think of this to the bands that I love are, well, there's lots of bands I love, but like if you think of like Flatliners and Menzingers and like to a lesser extent like the Swellers and stuff, these are bands that you can kind of identify. If you hear a song, you like know it's them right away. And so that's kind of what I feel like we finally landed on with Clipwing, where it's like if you hear these songs, they're not going to sound homogenous, but they're going to like you're going to pick up our melodies, you're going to feel like you know what I mean? Like it's what you've come to expect, but like new and fresh and a little bit more refined and a little bit more mature. Dylan definitely brings a lot of like settling into like more the stuff we like there's Steve-O and I especially come from a background of skate punk and really fast shit, and the goal from Clipwing out of the gate was to like kind of buck that expectation of us. And the older we get, the more we settle into like we just want to make music that like is like that feels good, and we don't give a shit if it's fast or it's technical or whatever. So a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling, and hopefully a lot of good songwriting.
yeah, I think the good word is like emotional, and I think also like mature. I think I don't know, like things have happened to us, whether it be like any aspect of life like that you go through, but it just seems like the songs are more mature as an outsider, like from hearing what I heard before as a fan kind of thing, and then hearing these new songs. I think the songwriting has matured in the best sense of the word.
And vocally too. I think like Dill brings a lot to the game vocally as well. So I think that we're going to see a lot more on this new record, a lot more cool things going on, like whether they're really subtle or right up front.
It's fatter and older.
That too.
You can't get away from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds beefier.
Time.
Yeah.
But not necessarily real beef, you know.
Right. Of course. Veggie beefier. What you said a few minutes ago about kind of just wanting to do, the stuff that you like. Are you in a better position now, just in terms of where you are in your lives and where you are in terms of playing music and the experiences you've already had with other bands and with this band, to be able to just do that and just say, fuck it, we're just going to do a record that we want to do, rather than having to, fit into any kind of category or play a style that you think people want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of freedom in like, having been past your first couple of bands, and like, not that we're not trying to make it, but like we're beyond giving a shit about what anybody else thinks. Like, this is something that we do for ourselves, and we're obviously hugely appreciative if people enjoy it. Like, you want to share it with the world, but there's something super freeing about that. So we just get to write whatever we feel like and whatever we think is good for us. So having come this far in our career as a band, like, you just kind of get to just be yourself, and like, not like we don't have a label to answer to, we don't have anybody, and like, there's certain expectations, like, when you go into shows or you release music, you oftentimes like, okay, well, what do the fans want, whatever, and it's like, as much as we take that into consideration, we get to just be like, we don't fucking care, actually, we'll just do whatever. We do this because we really love it, and I think that's a thing that's also what we love about the bands that we love, is that, like, I just want you to do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to placate me or pander to me or whatever. So we just kind of write what we like, and we get to put it out there, and there's something super liberating about that, because when no one else is helping you, you don't have anybody else to answer to,
Yeah. I think like the new songs, specifically, because I since joined the band, like, I don't know, it just seems like the songs are very organic, and they're just kind of happening. Marty or Randy or Steve, it doesn't, whoever, like, brings a certain thing to the band to practice, and like, we're pretty open with each other, like, we've known each other for years now, like, off and on, like, whether in the scene or whatever it is. And I think, like, jams happen, and if we bring something to the table, we'll work with it, and if it doesn't work out, we'll kind of like throw it to the side for now, and like, we'll try and work on something else. And it's like, whatever, we play something during jam, and then we just roll with it for a while, and they're like, oh, that sounded cool, like, I don't know what that was, but it was like an organic little jam session that we did for 2.5 minutes. And with technology now, we can record stuff and make sure we remember this type of thing. And I think it, like I said, coming back to, it all happens organically. Like, it just, we write something, and we see what happens with it, and if we like it, we keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something to be said too, like Marty, you were saying the other day about best bands don't break up. I'm not saying we're the best band by any means, but I mean, there's something to be said for just sticking it out, and seeing that wave come back, seeing some of those people that you might have seen at the beginning come back around, or they pass it on to someone else.
Just jumping off something you just said there, are there identifiably, I mean, for the listener, not you guys can clearly tell the difference, I'm sure, but is there like something that's obviously a Marty song, or obviously a Randy song, or obviously, when you guys bring songs into the jam, does it eventually just come fully formed by the end of it as a Clipwing kind of all-encompassing song, or are there distinctnesses that you recognize and that you think listeners might be able to pick out in terms of who brought a song to the table, or who was the main writer on something?
I don't think so.
I think your vocal carries it, Marty. Like, really, whatever. You do a lot of writing, obviously, but like,
if the chorus is pushed, or you hear me refer to myself as an asshole, it's definitely my song. There's a like as much as I hate to admit it, like, I have a lexicon like everybody else, and like, I'll use Rise Against as an example, because they're an easy target, which maybe nobody has thought of in a while. But like, there's things that like I said, that like are identifiable for bands, and like, there's words in Rise Against's dictionary, which is like bricks, smoke,
Angels.
like angels, yeah, like that kind of shit. And like usually I'm a lot of like, there's a lot of self-deprecating stuff in what I write, and so that to me is like what kind of sticks out. But I mean, Randy's written a couple of tunes that we're still working on, but like, for the most part, I'm usually bringing mostly whole songs, and then the guys help me largely with arrangements, which is like, Steve was throwing a couple lyrics at me, like all the guys will usually contribute or whatever, but like, for the most part, I guess I'm writing the bones and the structure and the lyrics and stuff like that. So
yeah, I would say like, you know, like the skeleton's already there, but then we kind of like we add all the, you know, all the organs and all like everything else to that body of music that Marty will bring. And, you know, we'll think of a different transition, or like try, instead of doing the verse like this, do it like this. And then, you know, we all kind of throw in an input, and then we're like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like, let's go, let's run with that. So I think, but it's good to have someone like Marty, who's a great songwriter, and he brings something to the table, and we can all work with it, and we're all talented enough where we can add our own 2 cents to it and make it something new and exciting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Were you going to say something, Steve, or was that just a?
I was just gonna say, like, I see, Randy's not saying much right now. I know, and he often sometimes doesn't say as much. But
this is what he's like most of the
like
time.
we all met as like songwriters, like punk songwriters. I think we kind of had our own things already going on, like a long time before this. So it's kind of just a matter of bringing those all together, and that's why it made so much sense to have Dylan in the band with everything he's done with Danger Cat and Distances and all the writing that he's done. Randy with Doc Brown, like we played years ago, you know that, Sam, too, and like we've all been around, Marty as well. So it's just like finally bringing 4 songwriters together is something that you don't often get, and that's why I think we're in a really cool spot right now.
Cool. Have you had a chance to play live yet since the pandemic has been, well, it's still on, but since things have opened up a little bit?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Once in December, right? December, and then
Brewbanger got missed, and then
we opened for we played with Mobina Galore.
December 14th.
Yeah, we played in December,
right, and then
pretty much shut down.
One other one. So we have
Flatliners.
I don't know if it counts, but we played what we considered to be the last show of the pandemic.
Yeah, March 13th.
March 13th. It's when things were like ramping up, and it was Death Cassette's CD release.
Atomic.
Oh yeah.
And like basically like some of the bands had to decided to drop off because things were getting crazy, and we were like, we don't really know yet, whatever. And then we played, and then I think that Monday the lockdown came into play, so we really made it count at the last minute. And then I think we've only played the one time since, and then we've got the show coming up with Wilhelm Scream on June 7th is going to be our next one.
Yeah, wow. I'm thinking that we had another one, but yeah, I remember the December 14th one, but then I thought that we had a
Rippers.
Was that the Mobina one? We have, see, this is the problem with age too, is that the memory goes.
We had planned a giant event,
Rippers
like you know,
Sam,
Theater. The Brewbanger, and the Brewbanger didn't happen, and that was
Mobina, Rippers, and us.
I don't know.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
This is a wash, man.
I don't know. If you check our MySpace page,
I
it's
think
probably
Well, what I was getting at there with that question is I mean, what do you think that playing a live show is going to look like now? It's been a while for everyone. I mean, for people going to shows, they're still sort of starting to trickle back in. I mean, I haven't been to a show since the Propaganda shows, which was now a while ago, right? How do you feel about playing a show now? I mean, it's going to be different. I think there's going to be some of the same vibe for sure, but people are still a little nervous. Some bands are still nervous. I know a lot of people have, postponed shows even now. What are you feeling about getting back out there?
I mean, I think we're gonna plow forward. Like I was at those same Propaganda shows, and it was wild because that was like really when things had just reopened, and those places were just packed, and it was like super nerve-wracking and kind of weird and like
It's terrifying.
An odd vibe. And then more recently, I just went to like Comeback Kid and Cancer Bats at the Albert actually. And then I know people that went to the one at the Park Theater, and we've been to some other gigs at the Park Theater. I just went to Metal Fest. And I don't know, I think people are like, there's so much fatigue with the lack we've had. Like, this is such a thing. This is like a lifeblood for so many people, like ourselves included. Like we just talked about that as like, despite, you get older and you go to less shows, but like we're all cut from the same cloth here. And we like, we'd go Thursday, Friday, Saturday to 3 different gigs in the city. And so to go from that to literally nothing, no matter what age you are or what you got going on in your life, was like, it was debilitating in a sense. And so I think people are already just ready to go, and like I don't know, the reality of COVID is it's here and whatever. I mean, like, we don't need to get into the specifics of that, but I think most people, over it is not the right word, but they're willing to accept the risks, and they're moving forward, and they're just like, life has to resume as normal, or we're just going to be stuck in this for a very, very long time. So from a band perspective, it's like we're not being flippant about it, and we still want to be safe, and so we're gonna exercise caution. But otherwise, I mean, the show will go on the same way that it has, and we're gonna do our absolute best.
It totally takes a toll too, like on ourselves. I think not being able to have that avenue to play music. I know how much it just completely crushed me personally, not being able to meet with the guys, and like it's not the same passing demos along online. Obviously, I think a lot of people feel that way, but I am happy about the progress we made during that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for
so
sure.
I
Yeah,
think we used the time well.
Yeah, I got
I
way
agree.
better. I got better at drinking over the pandemic.
A lot of people did.
We all got better at some things. Yeah, one of them. Bar
What
none.
are the details of the show coming up? Because this will come out before that. So it's I guess the first big show for you guys back now that things are opening up, right?
June 7th, Park Theater. Us at Wilhelm Scream. Brendan Kelly. Is that
Brendan Kelly,
Brendan
yeah.
Kelly
Make
from,
War.
from Lawrence Arms.
Exactly.
Make War, who is okay. So I did not know. I don't know, Sam, if you've listened to Make War.
Haven't.
So go check them out. They're a new Fat Records band, and they sound suspiciously like us. It's what I felt like. Like it's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird to hear another band and be like, "What the fuck is?" Like, it definitely feels like it's up our alley, which is great. It's also a little intimidating because you're like, "Are they better than us?" Like, it's just
We're gonna have fun.
have we been doing this wrong? But no, it's the bill fits together nicely, and a Wilhelm Scream is like that's. I saw them at Warped Tour when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking love that band, and yeah, we've like High Five Drive. We opened for them in Austria, and we've toured with them a little bit, and we played with them in Winnipeg years ago. So they're they're buddies, and we're super excited for it. And their new record is fantastic. So it's gonna be. I'll just keep burping through my fucking answers.
It's all good.
I'm done. Yeah.
When do you have an idea of when your next record's going to come out? Is that still to be determined, or is that kind of chugging along with a date in mind?
So I'd like to try to get it done this year. We have a lot of songs. It's about getting just getting organized and getting it down. Like so many things pop up, and then this was like a show we couldn't say no to, and so you kind of shift gears, and everybody like we don't have 3 days a week to devote to the band, unfortunately. So we just we shift into like, okay, we're gonna get prepped. We want to get tight for the show, so we're doing that, and then we're gonna be right back on the writing train. So going to try to push forward a little bit and get it done before the end of the year. But the idea is to, I think, record it and then shop it around for a while and see if we can get some people on board and then just put it out in whatever capacity we can.
Cool. Very cool. If people have not heard you before, or even if they have and they want to, see what you're up to now, what's the best way to find you guys online, both for listening to the music you already have out and finding out about upcoming shows and things like that?
Sweet spot's probably going to be Instagram. That's the place we live. We do not have a TikTok. We're probably not going to get one. Facebook is slowly dying a terrible death, thank God. So Instagram, Dylan's on top of the Insta, and it stays relatively updated. So anything of value will be on there. We have a Bandcamp if you would like to do that. We're on every streaming service, of course, but Bandcamp pays more. So if you want to go there, have a look. We've got lots of vinyl and shit left too. We can mail you that if you want.
Awesome. Very cool.